ways that people can maybe like you've got a flash goal. Yeah, flash. I don't even know what that is, but okay. So all right, so you trade. All right, so you trade there on um, a 5 minute pullback. All right, so kind of what we have here is we use 15 minutes, right? So on Ethereum, for instance, if I go back, this is a chart that we did yesterday. It was 2 days ago, I think 2 days ago, where we were looking for um, a trade, right? And you can see here that we have this orange box up here is actually the channel. See this orange box? That was the previous um, high lows. You can see here the swing lows. So that was the previous swing high, swing low, and then where we were here, where we were actually picking the trade up, you can see that we, in this white box here, the white channel, we had our previous low and high right here. So this was a breakdown for the trade, and then our target was the previous swing low. And as you can see, we broke through that, and then we hit the middle of that swing, and then we actually almost touched the top of that previous swing high. So we use 15 minutes for the swing low. Okay, so right now you look for the swing low on your 5 minute, and then you don't. How do you measure that out for the stop loss? Like what's your so when you find the previous swing low, right? And this is what I say, if you want to join, if you want to request to be a guest, I mean, I love to talk to you, so we can kind of move this a little bit quicker. But what is your previous, when you do the swing low, like what's the stop loss at? Like what's your percentile? Let me invite you as a guest. And so what's your percentage, right? So for instance, okay, so right now Ethereum, let's just take a look at Ethereum's previous move, right? Now we know if we go, you said 5 minute, let me slide to the 5 minute. So if I was looking at a 5 minute here, right, you can see here that this is the previous swing low right here, right? So if I put a channel on the previous swing low, right, it'd be right here, and then we'd be targeting the previous swing high, which would be up here. And I'm going to turn this into a white. You know what? Let's do something catchy, maybe purple. Okay, yeah. So now I have this high. I have the middle, which is where it's currently just. We could see that it's currently broken below that. We're looking for a target area of an entry of somewhere off of this section here, which we didn't quite get, but then we'd be targeting, this up move, right? So if you do a 5 minute, right, which is okay, you can do 5 minutes, not that big of a deal. You would have this section here that from where you're currently entering, right, we can measure a long position, but currently where you're entering, if you entered right here, right, you'd be sitting at a 0.85. So let's just say 1% of a possible move from where Ethereum is right now back down would create a 1% move. Okay? Now, what I'm asking is, if you have a stop loss, right? If your leverage, let's say your stop loss is 40, 45, or let's just say 40%, right? That means that currently, if you did a 40x leverage, right, that would put you at, that would put you that if it went back and retested that support, that would stop loss you out. So you couldn't really use a 40x leverage here if that's what you normally use. Like a formula for Ethereum is normally you want to be using a 40 to a 60% leverage. Currently, at this position, you couldn't use a 40x leverage because then that would be if it did retest, you would be stop lossed out. So this is where you would have to adjust your leverage mathematically to something maybe 30%. So that if it did pull back to that and it tested, it would only get to 30, maybe 35% pullback before it went back up, because it shows a level of support. Now the one thing, kind of like a key or a secret to what, if you want to be a better trader, is that you want 2 levels of support before you hit your stop loss. Okay, which means that normally you would like for this coin to be above this level here, somewhere up here, so that if it came back, that it would have the middle, right, this middle line as support, and if it fell from that middle line, then you would have a second line of support, right? That's a pretty good, like, type target, right? Now we could say if we did another, let's say we did another parallel channel, we said, you know what, it does look like there is a support zone right about here, and then a lower support zone, which is that next level right about there. Now we could say that there is a support here and a support here, and then say that, we can see from the previous that we possibly have a section of support. You can tell right here. Let me open this up a little bit more for you. And this is really dissecting a trade. This is kind of like, piecing it together here. But you see these peaks right here. We have peaks, right? And we also have, these peaks here. And then we have where we can see there's some kind of like, consolidation here, right? So we have this area here. So we could say that this lower area here, right? Let me zoom in on that a little bit more. Now we could say that this area here has shown some support, right? We can see right there. There's some support because it kind of touched it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, and then it broke through and found that lower support. But then once again, it showed support here, right? Like growth right here. So we could say that this middle channel, this new middle channel, could be considered some type of support. So if we bring that into the equation and we go back here, right, we can now say that we could look and say, well, if it breaks through this particular, then our next move would be down to here, right, which would be, this next support group, which happens to be the support that it was previous, right? So now if we measure that out, let's go ahead and measure from this lower level here. And I measure that to the current entry point, right, which is right here. It's a 0.5, right? So that puts us at a one level of support, and then our lowest level of support from the current entry is about 0.76. So, I mean, if you were looking at this and Ethereum was actually in a really good positive position, you could get away with 35, maybe even definitely a 30x leverage here, right? But that's how you have to start using calculations to justify the what we call A trades, right? A trades that really make money. The goal here, and what I found was interesting, that you said that the biggest mistakes were being greedy, right? And normally being greedy means it's good to be greedy. You need to know when to be greedy, right? And if you're going to be greedy should be on your entry, right? So let me put step 1, right? Okay. Be greedy on entry. Okay. So best VC tips. So I'm gonna put this here. And I'm going to give you guys my best tips, right? Now, for this, you just have to hit share the live. So, guys, I need you to share the live, right? Share the live. And start spamming the like buttons. And we're going to go over the best VC tips, right? These are the best trading tips, right, that you can have. And then we're going to break this down. And number 1 is be greedy, right, on entry, Okay? And this is where we talked about being greedy, right? A lot of times you guys say I'm greedy and I make a trade, I'm really greedy, and I try to hold my trade too long, right? Well, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to make a certain amount of money, and you don't have a goal set and you don't have a target set, right? And when you do that, you don't know when to take a trade, right? You don't know when to close, right? So number 2 is set easy, profitable targets, right? And what I mean by that is, when you set your targets, right, they have to be profitable, because the only reason we're making a trade is because we want to make money, right? So we need to make money, okay? Profitable targets, right? And what that comes down to is, I guess we'd actually make that number 3, because number 2 should be have a proven system. Okay? And what I mean by that is, have a proven system, right? There's a million ways to make a trade, guys. If you watch me trade over the last, 7 years, especially 5 years on TikTok, you know that I've given you guys 7 to 10 different ways to trade, all types of different indicators to use, different systems and strategies that, relatively all do the same thing. So a proven system simply means, this is why I talk about having a 10 trade review, right? And when you have a 10 trade review, right, that just means that you can look at your last 10 trades and see whether or not they were profitable or not profitable, right? Now, you don't have to win a lot of trades if you're profitable, right? You might have a system where you win 4 trades, lose 6 trades, but somehow you still you doubled your money. So if you double your money in 10 trades, right, and you can do that every 2 weeks, then you have the start of a winning system, right? You have a start of a winning system, right? And if you have a start of a winning system, then you can do what we call critique, right? Tighten up, and put it where you can polish up your system, right? So what you need to do is you need to listen, because what you have to do is understand. You have to have a system that works. Now, it might not be the best system that works, but as long as it's showing results that are positive at the end of 10 trades and brings in profit, which is, the minimum is double your bag, right? At least 2, you want a 1x, a 2x, or a 3x, right? The goal is to have a system that gives you a 5x every 10 trades, right? So that way, you guys ever heard of the 50-50 rule? The 50-50 rule means that on average, whatever your result is, if you take 50 of that and then cut that in 50, you end up in a profitable situation. That means that if the worst case scenario, right, so let's take your average results, right? Then you take half of your average, which is what you should hit every time because it's already half of your average. But if you have a shitty week, half of that would be your result. So if your 50-50 goal can make you rich by the end of the year, then you have a good system. Okay? Thank you, Happily Imperfecto. Guys, share the live real quick. All right, I'm gonna cover these tips on how to be a better trader. Now, they're going to be tips that any one of you can use. They're going to be tips that you can apply to your trading. They're going to be tips that you can, use. You can go ahead, baby. Just don't knock the camera over. These are going to be tips that you can use and apply to your trading. And what I want you to do is, I want you to apply these tips. I want you to apply these tips I give you today, and I will be live trading every day, most of the time 2 p.m. Central, and at 2 p.m. Central, or find us during the day after that time. And I want you to come back and let me know if the tips are helping you or what you like about the tips, right? So the first tip is, you got to have, be greedy on an entry, have a proven system, and set easy, profitable targets. Okay, so have a proven system, right? That really comes down to, testing it, right? Which is what's called a 10 trade review. And on a 10 trade review, what you're going to do is you're going to review how far a coin went negative, meaning how close did it get to your stop loss of 40%. All right, so if it gets to 27 before it goes up, if it gets to 32 negative, 37 negative, or whatever it is, or if its stop loss is at 40%, you write that down, stop loss 40%, right? And if then you write what it went positive. Did it go positive 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 70%? Did I make 100%? So track your Harry G. What up, man? Track your 10 trades so that at the end of the trades you have averages, right? D to Miami, right? And this is going to help you see whether or not you have a proven system, okay? Now, if you missed this video, you can go back and catch it on VC Crypto Nation on YouTube, okay? But let me go ahead and break down a 10 trade system, right? So let's go over to text messages. Okay, we're going to put this here. And this is the 10 trade review. All right. Okay, number 1, track the trade. Okay? You want to know the percentage of each direction and results. Okay? What that means is, right? That means that it went 32% negative before it ended up going 45% positive and closed at 25% stop loss or closed, right? Meaning that you just closed. Now, what I mean by stop loss is you move your stop loss up as you get into profit, and then eventually if it comes backwards, it just closes you out. Now, what this is a very simple thing, right? So we know that your very first trade went 32% negative. Before, it went 45% positive. You closed it at 25% because after it hit 45%, it then went back down and you made 25% profit. If that makes sense, hit ones in the chat. Hit ones in the chat. Spam ones if that makes sense. You're tracking your first trade. You're tracking that it went negative 32%, then it went positive 45%, and then you closed it at 25% profit. Does that make sense? Hit ones in the chat. Right? So that's like how you track a trade. Okay? So for instance, you would put first trade, you would put 35 or 32 neg slash 45 pos slash closed, right? Or you can just put in the number 25 close, 25 SL, right? What this means is my first trade did 32% negative. it went 45% positive, right? So the trade, you started off when you bought the trade, it ended up going down 32% negative. It went 45% positive and hit a 25% stop loss, right? Now, what you want to keep track here is you should already know that you're using the same leverage all the time, right? So if you need to put it in there, you can put 40% X, right, to remind you that you're doing a 40% leverage. The trade went 32% negative, 45% positive, and then it closed at 25%, right? And what you can do to see that was positive is you could put 25% plus, right? Now, if it goes negative and you close that negative, then you would simply put 25% negative stop loss. But you need to know that what result at the end of the day, was it positive? Was it negative? Were you moving your trades? Okay. So this is the beginning of how you track your trades, right? This is a 10 trade tracker. Okay. That's what we're doing. A 10 trade tracker. Does that make sense? Hit the ones in the chat if that makes sense. So let's say that on my second trade, I do a 40x leverage. I go 27% negative. I go 65% positive. And then I stop loss for a 45% plus. Right? This tells me that, Keith, this tells me that I won 40x leverage. My negative was 27. My highest position was 65%. I stop loss at 45% plus, meaning that I took profit at 45%, right? Let's say trade number 3 comes in. I do another 40x leverage. This time I go negative 36% negative. I do 45%, or let's just say 47% positive, and then I end up closing at 35% plus stop loss, right? Let's do trade number 4. 40% leverage. I do a 26% negative. I end up making 89% positive, and I close at 65% plus stop loss. And then I'm only going to do 5 of the 10 trades. I don't need to do all 10. You'll get the ideal. 40x leverage, 36% negative. 34% positive, 25% plus stop loss. Okay, so this is half of what's called a 10 trade review. So I know that I'm using a 40x leverage. I know that my negatives are 32, 27, 36, 26, 36. I can tell right here that my negatives are high, right? Because you want your negative to be on an average of 15 to 20. So let's take it a little bit higher and say we want an average of 25 negative. So only 25 negative, right? So far, I'm 26, 36, 27, 32, 36. So currently, I am 10% more negative than I want to be. What does that tell you? You know what that tells you? Hit it in the chat, TikTok. Let's go. What does that tell you? If I only want to go negative up to 25% and I'm averaging 32 to 36%, what does that tell you? What's wrong? What's something you need to work on right away? What's the number one VC tip? What's the very first tip I put up here? What's the very first tip? And guys, spam the likes, guys. I'm giving you $1 million trading system. Spam the likes, or I'm gonna go eat sushi or some shit. Go eat all I can eat seafood, lobster or something. Remember, this is $1 million. This is a way for you to make $1 million fucking dollars. Alright, I'm taking my time to write you $1 million fucking playbook. I'd rather go eat all I can eat lobster or some shit. Right. Somewhere here your entry is bad. Right? So the number one tip here is be greedy on your entry. This is not being greedy on your entry. This is being impatient. Right? So you need to fix your entries. Because here's what's going to happen. On the positive side, we've taken home 25%, 45%, 35%, 65%, or even 25%. So we're making 25% on the low side, which is good. Because if we fix the entry, we will save at least 5 to 10 points, which means those 5 or 10 points become positive. So that means that these averages over here can go from 25% profit to 35%, maybe even 40. Okay? That is a reliable and proven system. Okay? If you can prove to yourself that you can make 30% per trade, okay? If you can make 30% every single fucking time you trade, let me show you what you can do. Right? And you go over here, you go over here, let's go to Google. And let me show you this. So I'm gonna pull up a very simple thing. It's a fucking calculator. Buses. Bus. Verify. Motorcycles. Yeah. I'm sorry, I got a lot of security on my shit, so they're always validating. I'm not a robot. Alright. Higher hydrants. How many fire hydrants we need? There we go. There we go. Okay, verify. Okay. So we're going to pull up on Google. We're going to pull up a calculator. Now let me show you what I'm trying to teach you, right? So this is a calculator here. And I can even pull it up on the phone. It don't matter. Whatever is easier to help you guys out. All right, so here's a calculator, right? Okay, so as a calculator, let's say that you are making, let's say you have a proven system, right? So let's go back to the steps. Have a proven system. Let me show you how this is, right? So if you have a proven system, right? And let's say that your proven system is 30% every single time. So if you only have $1,000, right? That means that every time you do a trade, you will make $300. Okay? So if you do 10 trades, and this just says in 2 weeks, that means you make $3,000 every 2 weeks, $6,000 a month, right? That means you can create $72,000 a year income, right? So how many people have a job? Hit ones in the chat. Hit ones in the chat if you make less than $72,000 a year. Hit ones in the chat if you make less than $72,000 a year. Okay? So this right here is a very simple way to create $72,000 a year from mastering a proven system that makes 30% per trade, right? 30%, and this is only with $1,000. If you want to double this, right, that means that you will have to simply raise your trading bag every time you do a trade. You need to raise it to 2,000, right? That brings in $600, and if you only do 20 trades a month, right? If you only do 20 trades a month, right? Remember, because we're doing $600, we're doing so that's all you really need. So let's say 20 trades, right? So you get $600 times 20 trades a month, 12,000. $600 only, so 10 trades, so 5 trades a week, All right, 5 trades a week. Let's just keep it simple. 5 trades a week, 12,000 a month. That's an entire year. Okay? That's how you get where you're going, right? Now, if you take that and say, okay, I got 5 years of my life, right? You can turn yourself into a millionaire, right? You can turn yourself into a millionaire. 600 times 12. 600 a trade times 20 trades a month times 12, right? Times 6. Right? So 7 years you can clear $1 million. And that's if you took this really slow. Right? So that's really what this comes down to. Make 1,000%, 1,000% trades with. It's actually impossible, but you can't make 1,000% on the trades, bro. You know how long it takes to make 1,000% on trades, right? So, you have to have a system that's a proven system, right? That comment Alex put, make 1,000% trades with pot stocker. It's impossible. The odds of having that actually being possible, if you do the mathematics on it, it's too high. It's crazy. You want to have a proven system that you can do very easily and tweak with tools that you already have. So if we fix our entry here, which really wouldn't be that hard, we would hit 30%. Now notice that some of our profits here are 25, 30, 45, 35. This is a 30% profit taking system that you can do. And most of the time you're going to make 45, 65, 85. You're going to make more than 30% on most of the trades. But by taking, remember we had the 50-50 rule, half of what you do and half of half, right? So what's your average? Take half of the average, then take half of that. Meaning that you're doing basically 25 to 30% of the average, meaning worst case scenario, and you can still crack $1 million. That make sense? That's what we're talking about. A proven system that can get you where you need to go and make the money that you need to make without trying to make fucking outrageous gains and claims that are impossible to do. Right? Now, I'm not saying we can't make 1,000% a trade. We have trades, right? Listen. So in my Discord, if I go to my free trades, you will see guys inside of here that actually, I don't need to be in that. We have guys that do huge fucking trades, right? And we try to keep it. Here's 490%. Right? We do trades that are crazy, right? We do 700% trades, 600% trades, but those are trades that you don't. It's not something that a normal person can do, right? So what we teach you is how to take 20, 25, 30% on average and turn that into wealth, right? Simple things, right? I mean, we can do 120, we can do 161, we can do 95%. We can do the trades that get crazy on there, right? What it comes down to is, can an average person do something over and over and over, right? Meaning the 50-50 rule, right? Half of the average and then half of the average half, right? If it doesn't make money on your worst day, then it's not a system that makes you money. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, so my mentor has 20 accounts and only does $200 a day. He takes out $40,000 per month from his profits. 20 accounts, not 200. Okay, right. That's what I was saying. So he has 20 accounts and he does $200 a day. And he takes out of the 20, he takes out 40,000 out of the 20 accounts, right? So that's a system that he likes because he's only trying to do $200 a day, right? But that's where you need to be here, right? So in order to do $200 a day, right, which wouldn't be hard, you need to have a $1,000 trading bag, and you need to do one trade for 30% a day, which is actually really easy. if you know how if you know how to trade, right? And let me explain it to you. If you're doing a 40x leverage, that means you need to find one trade every single day that moves 1%, because 1% times 40x leverage, which is called the multiplier. For every 1% you multiply times 40, you get 40%. So that means is, in order to make what your mentor is making a day, which is kind of what I do every day, is I need to do one trade for 30% with $1,000, right? Very, very easy to do on that side, right? So $200 a day times 20, right? So this is where you start putting the system together for yourself, right? And this is it's pretty simple, right? Once you start piecing together something that works for you, right? You have to be something that's repeatable, right? So this is why being greedy on entries are easy to do. All right, so here we go. We're getting a buy signal here on Ethereum, right? So what's going to happen on Ethereum now that we have a buy signal is that we're going to have a pullback, right? And at some point it's going to pull back and give us an entry. It's probably going to be off this last support area right here. So it looks like Ethereum is about $2,497 entry. So once we get that entry there, hold on. That'll be looking for the entry that we want, right? Now this kind of gives you a scenario, right? So, okay. So first thing is the 10 trade review. Once you understand what you're doing, you need to fix your entry. Once you figure out how to fix your entry, that'll increase your profits. And then once you increase your profits, it really becomes a very simple process of making the 30% per trade, right? So I don't want to lose that fact. So 10 trade review, right? Trace the trade, track the trade, right? And what that's going to do is track the trade, boom. And then once you track the trade, you'll be able to figure out what you're doing wrong, right? So if entries are your problem, then the number one tip that I was giving you early is that you have to sorry, I had to do a puzzle piece for TikTok. Okay, you have to have a proven system, but be greedy on your entry, right? Being greedy on your entry. I'll tell you a secret. It's very simple. If you're greedy on your entry, right? If you always enter at the best time or almost a decent entry, you will win 90% of those trades if you have a easy, profitable target. All right, so now 10 trade review. Track the trade, percent of trades, close days, all that. So now that you guys have the basic of what's a 10 trade review, let's go over here and how to figure out a trade, right? So you say you use the 5 minute. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the 5 minute so that we can have a situation here that we can kind of, trade the way you're trading, right? So first of all, let me get rid of this. Bloop. Okay. So if I did a swing low, the lowest low, right? Let's go ahead and put a channel. If you guys don't know how to do channels, left side of your trading view, I'll go ahead and give that to you right there. You'll see the left side right here. You go down to the top part right here. It has a trend line. Click the trend. slide down the arrow in the drop box to what you got, a parallel channel, okay? Once you find a parallel channel, okay, you're going to then go back and look at the previous movements, right? So let me get rid of some of these. We'll move all these arrows around and we'll use them if we need them later. But right now we just want a clean chart, right? Okay, there we go. Clean the chart up. All right. So now, if we're looking at this particular situation, let me get rid of that. Okay. We will see that we have a swing low, right? We have a double bottom here, right? So let's go to the trend. Let's bring down the arrow, grab a parallel channel. We're going to hit the swing low, and not at the wicks, right? A little bit above the wicks, almost where the candle bodies are. We're going to come across, and then we're going to just stretch it out to where we are. Click again, and now that we have this channel, we're then going to rotate up, right? And what we're looking for is in the current time, we're looking for an area of resistance, right? Where it seems to hit a lot and then reject. And then we can see right here that this section here is the high. It retested here, here, and here, and then it broke through here, and then it came back down, retested resistance, retest, and then it basically made lower low, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, and then it broke down. And now we're in the part of the trade where we're seeing the lower high, lower high, lower high. Now we're in the part of the trade where we're starting to see what we're looking for, which is higher highs, right? Which means that most traders, right? Most traders, what they're going to do is they're going to, let me move this, 2049, okay, we're just going to 2049. So what's going to happen here is most traders are going to look for what they call confirmation, right? And you can see here that you have an area that has had a lower high, then we have a bounce here. Now we have a higher high. Notice that it's higher than its previous high. So what we're going to be looking for is most traders are going to look for this to come back. They're going to look for what's the next thing they look for? A lower low, right? And then once they see a lower low, they want to see the next move, which would be what? A higher high. Then there will be a lower low pullback, right? And then that's when they would decide that that's the time that there's momentum, and then they would be placing their trade in at that momentum time, and then they would be looking to make the trade. Does that make sense? Is that how you guys trade? Is that what you guys have been taught? Lower lows, higher highs. Is that what you're looking for when you make a trade? That makes sense? Come on, guys. Hit the ones in the chat. Spam the chats ones. Don't forget to share the live, guys. The more you share the live, the more I stay interested. So if that makes sense. Right. So market structure, right? So, this is kind of where you start to see these things happen, right? And this is where, market structure, right? So what is, let me just kind of we'll break this stuff down for, let's go here and let's go to market structure. Market structure trading, right? And I want to kind of break these down because I love trading, and I love to go through what you guys think, right? So market trading explained. So for new people, if you're new to crypto, right? Market structure is just trading essentially framework for understanding and navigating the behavior of financial markets based on analysts and price movements, right? Now, I teach a system called price action and volume, where I wrote an ebook called Volume is King. Now, I should put the ebook back up, and I should let you guys buy the ebook so you can go read and figure out what I'm talking about. So what is market structure? Market structure can be thought of as a map of past price movements, highlighting key levels like support and resistance, as well as swing high and swing lows. It helps traders identify the current trend, up or down, or sideways, or potentially turning points. It provides us a statistic framework of past price movements distinct from dramatic price action, which reflects real-time price changes. Types of market structure: uptrend, downtrend, consolidation. Right? Uptrend is characterized by higher highs or higher lows. Downtrend is simply... All right. Sorry, my battery was going low there. Let me get you some juice here. While we're learning trading, I think I hear the ice cream man, babe. Ice cream. You hear him? Ice cream. Should we go buy all the homeless people ice cream? All right. So, learning market structure, right? It's very simple. Just type in market structure trading on Google. All right, so here, uptrend, characterized by higher highs, higher lows. Downtrend, lower highs, lower highs. Consolidation, range, flat market, no clear trend. Price moves within a horizontal range, which is, the horizontal range is the channel that I'm showing you, indicating balance between buyers and sellers. Key concepts in market structure changing: swing highs and swings lows, local peaks, local valleys, support, resistance, blah, 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 blah. Okay, then we can go over here. We're going to click on this one little Google thing, and we're going to take a look at a breakdown for all you newbies in mastering market structure trading, the ultimate guide, etc., etc. And I'm going to take a peek here. Okay, so here you go. Right, so market structure. Okay, you have your weak high, your lower high, the Wyclef spring, which is the push down, then a bounce, right? And then this basically, see how the strong low, where it's showing that it's starting to even out, and then we see a push to the top, and we get another weak high, and then you get the equal. I don't need all that, thank you. I don't need to subscribe. Then you have a weak high again, comes down, and it finds what we call the basically like an internal range, which is basically the channels that we do. Then it pulls down, has a strong low, right, and then looks for the move up, right? So that's basically, you know, where it pushes, works its way down, pushes up higher high, works it, and then shows that it's leveling out here. Instead of going down, it goes sideways, and then once it consolidates, pulls down one more time and moves up. Now we take a look at Ethereum. Let's take a look at Ethereum. Right, we have the structure where we have our lower lows and then the explosion up. It consolidates and makes its big move once it pulls back. Now it consolidates again, lower low, big pullback, highs, pullback, push up, consolidation, move up, and then exhaustion, consolidate. And now we're in this move here where we've seen the lower lows, which we just seen, and then this spike right here, right? So we go back to this market structure. This is kind of where we're at right here. We've seen the push up, we come back, we consolidate, one more move down and up. Now we go to Ethereum, we have what? We have the push up. See the push up right there? We go back here, you see this push up right here? Right? Then we need a pullback to consolidation, one last low, strong low and up. So go back to Ethereum. So this is kind of where market structure, patterns and what normal people that trade are thinking that's happening. Does that make sense? Right? See this big move, see higher high, lower high, pulls back. Let's go here. Higher high, lower high, pulls back, and then here, right? Now we should see a pullback, a flat, a pullback, and an up, right? So we're here. So we should see a pullback, and now we need a flat, then we need another pullback, and then an up. So the pattern that we're looking for is we're looking for a pullback, we need it to go sideways, a pullback, and then up. Okay? Now that is the pattern that we are looking for, right? Now, what I'm going to show you guys is a way to execute all of this a little bit different and what really matters, right? And this is the difference between every other mentor and the system I've been teaching for 15 years 7 years in crypto and why it's the most successful trading system out there is because I don't need the market structure. I don't need to look at this and say to myself, oh, it's building a market structure. Next move would be flat, pullback, and then an entry. Okay? This takes a long, long time to master. Not to mention that this can all be manipulated by our market maker. So if you're in a crypto and it only takes $1 million to move this differently, I can see where you're buying and selling with the heat maps, and I can short you. So if I'm an exchange and I want to liquidate a bunch of my customers, I can short the market, collect all the liquidations, pump the market, get you excited, and then I can use this entire market structure against you. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you, right? Lazar's like bingo, right? All these patterns and all these structures are designed to manipulate markets, because once the what we call the masses or retail investors, once they see these patterns, these patterns can be, you know, manipulated in every single way. And that's kind of what we're covering, is that even though these patterns are out there, what's going on, Tally?
Hey, I'm in a Discord. Are you not on Discord?
Oh, yeah, I'm live on TikTok right now. Hold on. And I'm recording it all, so let me see here. Let me see if you're in. Okay, so which one are you? Oh, there you are. All right. Can you hear me on TikTok?
Yeah, I hear you.
What's going on?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna,
Nothing much. Was
all right. So I'm going to share the screen right here. Let me know if you can see it. And I'm just going to finish up this here, and then we'll cover a little bit on that. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm showing the guys what's called market structure, and I'm showing, you know, basically what everyone else is looking at. Remember, we covered before in one of your lessons higher highs, lower lows. Then we look for the move and the explosion, and then what we're covering is how to actually get into this trade without having to go through figuring out what patterns being done as far as the market pattern, if there's higher highs, higher lows, you know, et cetera, and then also, you know, taking in account where you know, the market structures are normally used to take advantage of retail investors. So can you see my screen right now? You hear me?
yes.
Okay. So you should see the Ethereum chart, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. So after we looked at a market structure, then what should happen is this yellow line, right? Should go sideways, which it has a support zone, and then it should have a pullback, which is this last pullback here. And then after that pullback, there should be a bounce from that level, which is about 29,000 or 2,493. There should be a bounce from there, and that's where we should have our next higher high. Okay, so what I was showing the guys here was after doing 10 trade review, we got to the section where kind of like understanding the entries, right? So you want to go back and watch this video, because I did a 10 trade review video, and that'll help you understand how to put your things together after we're done here. All right, so what we're going to do here, guys, is the system that I teach and I train, it eliminates the having to understand market structure, higher highs, higher lows, figure out if you're looking at a higher high, figure out if you're looking at a lower low. There's a lot of things that go on with patterns, and if you look at the patterns, sometimes you can see something that isn't there, or see something that's there that then gets manipulated, and it all comes down to a time frame, right? Because on this time frame, we're looking at a 5-minute time frame, that creates patterns. And then once we go to a 15-minute, the patterns change a little bit. And then depending on whether or not we're using a 1 hour time frame, right? Notice here that on the 1 hour time frame, we don't have the structure or the pattern that we had earlier, which was a lower low, right? We have a deeper pullback. Now we have a higher high. See how this became a higher high here? And then it became an equal high, then a lower high, right? So depending on time frames, it changes what you're looking at as a pattern, right? Which, you know, is kind of the problem where you guys get confused and you make mistakes, is because you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, right? And it doesn't work like that. So what we do here to eliminate all the guesswork, right? And this is, pay attention, share the live, right? Share the live, hit the likes. I keep telling you guys, you got to share the live and hit the likes. Otherwise, I'm going to get bored and go eat lobster. So I'm going to give you the sauce. I'm going to give you the tip. I'm going to give you something I want you to practice. And I want you to come back and tell me if it's working. Okay? I want you to, I like feedback, right? So I like to, you know, when you do something, Candarine Trade, what's up, Candarine Trades? You know, I want you to do something and then come back and literally tell me how it works, right? So we're going to take all that stuff that we have, all the patterns, all that stuff, and we're going to break this down into a very simple system, right? And the first part of our system, which is what Tally Trades is going over, is doing a breakdown of a trade or a possible long. So Ethereum's going to go long here, right? It just depends when. So the first thing we're going to do, nothing too crazy. We're going to use a very simple tool, which is called the Stochastic RSI. And when the Stochastic RSI shows that there is a 1 hour headed up right here with the green line, right? Normally it's blue. We're going to create a trading box, right? A box, meaning just a box, a square. And that we can see that right now the 1 hour is starting to break up, right? And I'm going to put the 1 hour box here, and I'm going to make that box purple because that's how we know that we have a 1 hour box. And the very next thing that I need to do to basically make this a trade that we're going to do is I need the 2 hour to be heading in the same direction, which currently hasn't started yet, right? You can see right here that the 2 hour is going down, meaning that in the next candle it could go sideways, or in the next candle it could start going up, or it could take one more candle, right? So either way, I'm just going to put this here and I'm going to preemptive a white box representing when this green line crosses over. So to give myself an alert using their indicators, we simply hit right click. We're going to add an alert, and this will go right to my cell phone, which is my email for my trading view. That'll tell me that this is happening. I want to know when this creates a crossing. I'm going to put a message and I'm going to add a custom name, and it is going to be the Ethereum 2 hour crossing, right? And that's just going to tell me that Ethereum is starting to cross over, and that is the trade box of volume, price action, people buying, and the only reason I should be buying a trade at that time. Okay? That is where, thank you, Verified Wealth, this is where you will make money. And our entire goal in this next Ethereum trade, and you should be, Tally, you should be setting the same alert, because this is your next Ethereum trade.
Okay.
Remember, your job is to master 30% trades on Ethereum right now. So currently, we have the 1 hour headed up. We are waiting for the 2 hour to start heading up. And then that'll give us our trading zone, and eventually the momentum will pick up once the 4 hour starts to go up as well. Now once the 4 hour goes up, that'll be basically where we have what's called a blue box, right? And that blue box is the most momentumous box because that has the most momentum. So this is our 3 buying zones, okay? So now that I have the 3 buying zones, I'm gonna go back to my 15 minute right now. You said that you use, and I'm talking to TikTok. You said you use the 5 minutes to find the highs and lows. I'm gonna still use the 15 minute because the reason why we use the 15 minute is because the higher the time frame, the more the price action and the more the momentum. And we're going to get the same, as you can see here, we have the same lows, right? You see right here, the same lows are marked and the same highs are marked, right? So we have the same situation with the channel for swing highs and swing lows. So we're good on there. So that doesn't change anything for us. The second thing I'm going to do is, notice here we have the 15-minute buy signals, right? Now we're going to use the 15-minute buy signals, and we're going to add an alert. And you can see right here it says add alert to VC Making Trading Easy Price Action Tracker. So these are our indicators that we use to track buys and sells. And these indicators are on TradingView. You can get them for free. If you can't find them, send me a Gmail at vccryptonation@gmail. Okay, we're going to move this to once per bar. We always use our alerts on once per bar. I don't know. I like it when it's just, it lets me know that every time there's a bar. I'm going to add this alert. This is going to be the 15-minute. I'm going to put the coin first. So Ethereum, right? 15-minute change of direction. And what that's going to do is just going to let me know when there's a 15-minute buy or sell. Now that's it. Now I can be more specific. So let me cancel that out. I'm gonna get a little more specific with the trade in. The reason why I do change the direction is because it allows me to use one alert that will tell me when it's a buy and then tell me when I need to take profits as well. That's why I do the change of direction, because when it goes from buy to sell, I'll get an alert whether it does it both ways. If I want to be specific and I just want to know when it's a buy signal, then I simply go over here and I change the alert direction right here, and I drop down an arrow and I would simply pick buy. So if I only want to know when it's a buy signal, then I'll simply put in the buy signal. Right now I can see that I have a buy action. Then I go to once per bar, right? Once per bar, right? I change that to buy only, so I'm only going to know when there's a buy. I'm going to add a custom name. That's going to be Ethereum 15-minute buy, right? And that's it. Then I'm going to create my alert. So when Ethereum starts a next 15-minute buy signal, which would be an alert or confirmation of my entry that I should get into a trade that I'm missing, that'll allow me to come look at the chart and get into a trade and make sure that I don't miss this trade. I'm also going to set the original alert, right? You can see right there, alert on VC Making Trading Easy. I'm going to send this back to direct. I'm going to leave this on directional, which its default is directional, because the reason why is because if you have a trading view and you pay for a lower level trading view, you're only allowed 20 alerts. If you have the higher version, you can do 200. But this allows you to get the notification of buys and sells with one alert, and not having to create two alerts and bog down your alerts that you have, right? So you don't have to pay the higher level for TradingView. Okay, so now we're going to go to message. We're going to type in a name here. We're going to put Ethereum. I'm going to put 15-minute because that's the time frame. That's the time frame. Always put the time frame so that you know what it means. And I'm going to put directional, right? And that's just going to let me know that when this goes off, it's either a buy or a sell. I'd have to go look to actually see it, but it's going to let me know when the direction is, and I'm going to go ahead and create that as well. So now we have both those alerts. All right, now that we have both those alerts put together, I don't have to watch this trade anymore. I don't have to spend the next 3 hours, 2 hours, 6 hours. I can go pet the wife. I can, play with the dog. I can run the children. I can, I can do anything I want because I've already set the alerts that I need to do my trade, and I don't need to be here. So whatever you want to do, you can walk the dog, walk your wife, whatever. But you can do whatever you want in your life. Now, let's go back to the next level of how do I set entries, right? Because I think this is where you guys make the most mistakes, is you're greedy when you're in a trade and you just enter very poorly, right? So this is how to get your trade set up. So once we see that we have a 1 hour going up, okay? You see thank you, Isaac, for the follow. Once you see the 1 hour going up, now that I have that happening and I see that the 2 hour is coming up in the next 2 or 4 hours, and I can see that my previous supports are here, and I can see my target of resistance are here. And what this really means is that it's got to eventually break above this. So one of the things that most traders are going to do, right, if you're watching some type of mentor or coach, the coach is going to want the market structure to come back down, want it to break above the current resistance, and then once it breaks above the current resistance, they're going to look for a trade that does this, right? They want to see the trade break above like it does here. They want to see it come back, retest, and then this is where they'll buy. They want to buy the retesting of the resistance, okay? So what I'm going to show you is how to use a very simple strategy, which we're doing right now, to get into a better entry position, a more greedy entry position that'll allow us to basically get in early or get in at a better safety position. And then if it does break above here and retest, we can always get into this trade up here at any time, because that's a standard trade at 2,525, right? So that's the standard trade that's coming. But we want to get in somewhere here about 2,494 in that area right there. So we want this greedy entry, right? We want to get this greedy entry, because the greedy and the lower the better, right? Because then what we're looking for is this, right? This is a very, very key part of our lessons. Remember, what we're doing today is we're doing the this right here. We are doing the best VC tips for trading. Number 1, be greedy on your entry. Number 2, have a proven system, which we covered at the beginning of this video. So if you're new, go back to YouTube and watch my VC Crypto Nation. Watch today's video, and it will break down a proven system that shows you how to make literally $1 million for yourself, or $140,000 a year, or minimum $72,000 a year. It all depends on your goal, but set easy, profitable targets. So these are the tips for what I'm doing, and then this is an example of what we call a 10 trade review. This shows you on how to create a system, how to break down a system, right? So your 10 trade review is track trades, the percent of each direction, results negative before positive, and what it closed. And then your leverage, 40x leverage. It went 32 negative before it went 45% positive, and I closed at 25% profit. 40x leverage, 27% negative, 65% positive, I closed at 45% gains, right? Once I have 10 trades, I can look at my negative. You do not want your negative to go beyond 25%. So you can see here we have 36, 36, 27, 32. This means the entries are terrible and we need to fix that, which then in return will fix our profit taking, okay? But like I said, go back, watch the video, put yourself in that position to where you have the video there and you can, understand where we're at. Currently, we're at the part where we're being greedy and we need to find the best entry. So what we're going to do here is real simple. We're going to find the 15-minute. We're going to make a channel. These are our lows, and we can push these up to the bottom of these candles right here so that we have an actual accurate position, a little more accurate right here, which means that the low that we're looking for is 2,480, right? So here's go a little bit up, rounded up, 2,481. That's our low, right? That would be this re-hitting this purple box, and then where we currently are here, right? So once we have the purple box here, which represents the 1 hour going long, right? We're going to see that there's a two-part move, right? This pump right here is the first move, right? You guys see this pump right here? Hit ones in the chat if you see this pump. Once it goes up, we're going to look for a pullback, which is the target that we're looking for. So we're looking for this pullback here. Control Z. We're looking for this pullback to give us a better entry somewhere around here, 2,494, and then we're going to look for the jump up. Now that we have this ideal of what we want to do, and we have areas of interest for us where we can see, right? And one of the interests is the previous 2,400. I'm going to move this over here. And what I'm going to show you is there is a line here, right? You see this? I'm going to go get a trend line. There's a line right here that on the previous bounce, right, it created a resistance area and then a support area, right? So that resistance area, previous resistance area, right, is what we would be considering. So that previous resistance, see how it hit resistance there and then it broke above it? This orange line is going to represent the previous resistance. I'm going to make it a 2 so it's not as thick. And you can see right there that that's the resistance, right? Previous resistance normally becomes future support, right? And if we come down here, we can see it had support, it broke below support, it's now above, and what we'd be looking for is for it to come back and actually touch that support, right? Which would be 2,494. Okay? Hit ones in the chat, guys, if that makes sense to you on TikTok. Hit ones in the chat if that makes sense. Right? So that's where we are as far as knowing where our entry is. Now, the reason why we set the alerts, right, for the 2-hour crossing, etc., is because once that happens, then that is going to the next part of our trade, which is what we need to do to make sure that we're in this trade and finding our entry points. So currently, if we were looking at this particular trade, we would assume that we're probably going to get back to this pullback session of this 2,494. Now, what this does for me, right, what this creates is this is what I was saying earlier about being, this is the first support. That's what I was talking about, having second support. Okay, this is what I was talking about. When you go to make a trade, your first support, which happens to be the first entry line here, and then I want a second support, which happens to be the lower channel, right, which is, this purple line here. Now, the reason why I want two supports is because if I decide to make this trade, right, let's say I make this trade, I want to make sure that if I do break through one support, I have a second support, and I can survive the pullback. And it does look like there's another right here, this support right here that kind of like on the last pullback. It looks like that would be give us a third support option. So we have the first orange, the second orange, and then we have the deeper purple, which is the ultimate support. All right, now this is very important, guys. So this is where you have to understand, you got to pay attention here, okay? This is where you're going to graph together the trade that you want to do and estimate what your leverage. So question at all. I like that. This is where you're going to decide what leverage you should use, and then if it makes sense, is the leverage that you use going to survive the pullback on the support all the way down to 2? So we have to go get a long tool. We need to measure out the bottom support, which is our second support, up to our entry point, which would be this orange line, right? See this orange line? And all that you do to do that is just grab the yellow line that's on your long tool, put it on you see how your mouse has perforated lines to the left? See this tally? See those lines?
Yeah.
See how I'm going up and down with that line? That's what I was trying to tell you yesterday, is you take that peripheral line that goes left, you put it in the yellow, right? And now when I'm moving that up and down, you see I can be all the way to the right and I can see that line, and then I can line it up to what I want, right? It doesn't have to be on the chart where it covers everything, and then I know that that's where I need it to be. Then I grab a corner and drag it down to the stop loss area, and now we can see that that's a 0.5 0.59 in red, right? So this is so if we entered this trade on this first support line, the pullback would be 0.59, okay? So Tally, if I'm doing a trade here, what leverage with that pullback do you think that I can survive? Where would you put leverage here? Now knowing that our average leverage is 40%, right? So if you saw that your double support line is sitting at 0.59, what leverage do you think that you could get away with here?
I would do the 30%. I mean, it's at the 1%. It's 59%. It's almost at 1%. So I know that I could.
Well, it's 0.59.
0.59. So 1% we usually do 30, correct?
Or 40, right? We'll try Ethereum. We try to do 40.
Okay, so 1% in Ethereum we do 40. So I would do half of that. I would do like 25.
25. Okay. So the
yeah.
breakdown would be let's say that it does the worst case scenario and it goes all the way down to that second support line, right? That would give us a 0.59. So if we ran a 40x leverage, that means that we would get that's almost 0.5%. So our 40x leverage would mean that we would be negative 20%, and then 0.59 gives us to about 60, right? So we'll say 60% of that. So 60% of $40 would be about $27. So that means that this particular pullback would take us to about 27% stop loss if it reached that lower purple area. So that puts us in a spot where, that's a pretty good spot running a 40x leverage, that we can go all the way back to that second support and only be at 27%, because that means that we can fall, right? Meaning that if we push this and said, okay, let's say that we push the pullback and say that we take a deeper dip, and let's say to the 8.0, right? Now we'd be at a level here that would be literally the lowest that we can go. That would put us at about 37x, right? So even if it got all the way down to here, this lower level here, we would still survive our stop loss and at 40x leverage. So I'm going to say that since I can get through the first support, the second support, and a third support, and then still have, a pretty good margin here of error, then I can use the higher leverage here and be a little more aggressive. So I can stay with my 40x.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, if this was smaller going the other direction, right, where this was tighter, and let's say that, I didn't have all this, then I would run a 30x leverage, right? So if this second level came down and it was actually a 0.80 here, that's where I would go to 30x leverage to to give me this extra orange line down here, right? But currently, I get that extra orange line at a 40x leverage. So I'm good here. So this entire zone here, saying that if I'm buying off of this area here, I've got an entire zone. And then what I can do is I don't have to keep measuring. I can simply go get a box. I can go from the entry point. I can go from the lower point. I can create a box that is, yellow. And now all I have to do is don't grab the edges where the dots are, grab the line itself. I can move this box anywhere that I want. Let's say that right now the current price that I enter right there, right? So say I put the top of the yellow box, and right there, put it at the entry point right now, and say that I'm jumping this entry, right? And let's say I get in here. I have this entire box as a pre-drawn out stop loss for 40x leverage, which means that I can go all the way down to this level here, and that is my new super safety stop loss. You see that?
Yeah.
So I don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have to recreate, pull my safeties here, go through all that stuff. I can just make a box that's already designed off of the original, entry, which would be this orange line, and the bottom would be this orange line down here. And I could take that box.
Mhm.
Now I can put it anywhere I want to estimate where I would have a pullback. So even if I entered here, let's say I jumped this trade and I say this looks pretty good here, and it pulled all the way back, it would have to pull all the way back to this bottom yellow line here for me not to have it, right? Still looks good because I have the first line of support, which it looks like it's gaining momentum right now. Then I have the second line of support, which was the previous breaking of that support and the bounce, right? Which puts it right about, even if it went to the wick, it'd be here. I'm still in the safety zone, see? I'm still safe here. So right now, if I took an entry around this level, I'd still be safe. So now that I have all that calculated, I can be anywhere inside this trading zone, right? As a matter of fact, the worst case scenario would be if I was a terrible trader and I got in this yellow area up here. This would be my worst possible trade, because if it did pull back from this high area up here, which would be a price of $2,506, that means that it could pull back to that last wick down there and get me. So there's no support here to protect me from that pullback, right? Which basically is what I want multiple support levels, at least two. In this scenario, the only thing I have is maybe this perforated line right here, maybe this line right here saves me once, and then this next line would be two, right? But that's the goal, is you want to have, and I wouldn't make this perforated line a support zone until the candle closes or opens above it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I can't make this perforated middle zone of this particular channel. I can't make that purple line yet a support or resistance zone because the candle hasn't closed above it yet. Does that make sense? Exactly. So question at all. So question tall says you are focused on a 30% gain by fine-tuning your leverage depending on the previous support. This is where greedy on the entry comes into play, because percentage-wise, you know what you want to use as leverage. Correct. Because one thing I asked people in the beginning of this live was, what do you think makes you, what makes it so that you're not making money in trading right now? Like, what's your worst thing? And you mentioned to me that number one was greed, and number two was over leveraging, right? So what I'm showing you right now is how to create the ability to pick your leverage correctly, so that you know that you're in the right leverage and give yourself the most opportunity to make the biggest gains with getting rid of the risk of being stop lossed out. All right? And that's part of fixing which is basically what the problem that you told me you had in the beginning. Yeah, so you're going in on 3 micro. So let's go back here. Okay, so, and I'm going to pull up Google, because what happens here is a lot of people are learning how to trade. So, Tally, do you know what 3 micros are?
Oh.
All right, so in trading, the term 3 micros most likely refers to micro mini fracture contracts, especially for most commonly traded micro E, S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, a micro E, Dow Jones. So this is where this is why when we're trading, so if he's doing like smaller version of the standard E mini futures contracts, like a tenth, like 1/10, right? So the fourth main micro contracts based on S&P. So this is when you're doing, this is the thing that you bought. Remember the $3,500 trading program you bought? So they were talking.
Mm-hmm.
What they're talking about is when they're doing their micros, right? So instead of trading a single like S&P contract, a trader could choose to trade like a tenth of a micro, right? So he's trading three micros,
Okay.
right? He's trading three micros in there. So what is micros? What are micros for you to trade? Okay. So this is where when people are talking, so microcap stocks are shares publicly traded companies, small market capitalization, typically under 300 million. So what defines a microcap? Blah blah blah. So when he's trading here, he's buying. So he's doing two things here, right? So he's buying three micros in definition. And what I want to do here is I want to. I want to do a video on what everyone's pretty much talking about here. Okay, so what he's doing is he will buy three micros on his entry, and then he would basically go in, and so he goes in with three micros, and then he enters again when the three micros are pulled back, right? So this is where he's struggling because there's no rationality, no rhyme or there's no system to that. He's basically finding support and resistance. He doesn't know if that's the actual support and resistance that's going to hold. And then what he's doing is he's buying three micros, and if it does pull back on him, which he expects, because there's always a pullback. Remember I taught you about how to do there's always two moves. Like the first move is up, there's a pullback. So what he's doing is he's not buying the pullback move. He's buying the support move, and then it pulls back, and if it goes below there, he's rebuying. When he should actually be buying the first pullback and then buying the higher high, right? And the reason why I don't teach that is because even if there's a pullback on the next one, right, and we're on an entry, we don't actually buy the next pullback on the entry unless it's a lower low. Meaning that, let's say you get in at 2,500, it goes to 2,600, and then it pulls back to 25.5, right? Well, that's not that. So listen to what I'm saying here, question at all. If you buy something at 2,500, okay, and okay, let's say we did this. So let's say we bought here at 2,494. It then went to 2,506. The pullback is 2,502. We would not buy that pullback. And the reason why is because the original buy came at 2,494. The pullback is only 2,502. So if you actually bought that pullback that is higher than your original entry, you will be cost average buying against your original entry. Because then the average price becomes 2,500. You've actually raised your buying point. The only time we buy again is if we buy at 2,502, it goes to 2,506, and then pulls back to 2,494. That's where we would buy, because that's lower than our initial entry one, which would then lower our average entry price. That makes sense? You never want to cost average buy up. Okay? That's a mistake. So, so once again, so this is all mathematical, right? So question to all, this is about you having a system that you can, you got to be greedy on your initial entry. You got to have a system that is proven so that you're not stuck in these decisions, right? Where you're deciding that the pullback is the buy, even though you don't know if it's a pullback that's actually going to be the big pullback, right? And then your other problem is that you're in 50% of your trade on the initial move, and then the pullback you want to put in your other 50%. So what you're really doing is you're hoping that there's a pullback. You're actually playing a pullback, and then to put in your other 50%, which would then, get you 100% in the trade. But what happens if you do that is that if you do buy that way, you end up putting 100% in, and you might actually raise your initial investment entry point. If anything, right? If anything, Bluebird, is your course easy to do? Absolutely, man. I'm showing you right here. Like Bluebird, I'm going to be honest with you. If you just seen what I'm talking about, if that made sense to you, then you can do the course. If this doesn't make sense to you, what I'm saying right now, then no. It's not an easy course. So what I'm saying is this, right? If you're going to buy in, guys, right? Question at all. If you're going to put in a trade on a trade, you should be able to put 100% of the initial trade in. And if it happens to pull back below where you originally entered, right? Then you should be willing to put in 50% more at that lower pullback, right? To increase the move. So what that does, now I'm giving you some sauce here, man. This is like, I'm enjoying this because I'm giving you a tip here. This tip is like, I'm telling you something that a system, this is a real mentorship tip, right? This is something that the guys who go and take like my mentorship program, which is $20,000 to do. This is stuff that I teach them because they're trading $100,000 to $300,000, and this is very important, right? But here's the concept: if you put in your initial trade and it's 100%, if that trade backs up to a lower position, so if you bought at 2,500 and trade went down to 2,450, you would then put in another 50%. So let's say you had a $50,000 trade and the trade dropped below your $2,500 entry. You would then put in, since you put in a $50,000 trade, you would then put $25,000 more, 50% of your initial investment, into the lower position. Okay? What that does for you is that now your initial investment of the $50,000 has now increased its value, because by putting 25%, let's say that it fell back 10%, you've now created a 5% profit gap for yourself. So now when it bounces and it goes back to your original entry, instead of you gaining back the 10% that you had currently been down, you are now gained back. You're up 5% because you created profit from a pullback. Okay? So now, just to get back to your entry, you've now gained 5% on the $75,000. Then, as it moves the other direction, 5%, you are now, instead of being up 5%, you're actually up 7.5% because you're in at 75,000 instead of 50. Right? This is where having a system that you know that you can trade with price action and volume, and you can trust that it's going to do what it's supposed to do, is going to give you the ability to make these trades with confidence, because you are trading a system that is going to bring money. Okay? So that's a secret that very wealthy people use, and this is how we trade big ass bags. And we, even if something doesn't go the way we need it to go right away, we turn that into profit anyways. It's kind of stupid that by going backwards on our original entry, we can actually make money. So now that we have this set up here, guys, you can see that we're getting our bounce. We're going to go back, and what we need is a 15-minute pullback. And you can see right here the 15-minute did a little bit of a pullback. It didn't come all the way back down. It's creating a little move to the top. And now what this shows us here, and Tally, you can kind of look at our Ethereum right now. This is a good example of where, you remember the other day we were doing the 15-minute moon alerts?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here's on Ethereum where we had the volume break down below, right? We've seen it break down below the zero line. And then for us, we would put an alert on the 15-minute moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would let us know about this original move, right? So notice here, and I'm going to show you guys something. This is kind of a when you're taking the course and you're doing something. This course is designed to show you patterns and give you alerts that help you identify moves. So Tally knows that when she plays the volume and she knows that the bounces are coming, she can put an alert on a 15-minute moon, which is right here. You see this green moon? Now what that would have done for her is if you take that moon and draw a line straight up, and we'll draw this line straight up, we'll make this line white, and then if we extend it up above to the candles, right, on the 15-minute, what she would have saw before all you guys is that there's a 15-minute volume burst coming, right? So you see this right here? So now let's just go to this main chart here. You can see here the white line goes through this big candle. She knows that there's going to be a spike in volume here, right? Now we're just going to measure this spike out. And if you're getting the alert, this spike was worth about 0.5%, right? Not what we want to trade, because 0.5% doesn't get us the money we want. Remember, we want a 1% move. So this is just the pre-warning to what's coming. So if she set her 15-minute moon alert, she would have known that this spike was coming. Now what she does is she knows, and she's learning, that once there's a spike, what happens when there's a move when move 1 happens? What happens after that, Tally? What do we look for?
After we do the 15-minute moon?
Well, after we have a move. So when there's one move to a direction, what do we look for? The second move. Right here. Move 1, right? Anytime there's a move, there's move 1. Okay?
Yeah, so we look for it to go up and retest. We look for it to retest.
Right.
To come back to that
pull back
spot. So for it to pull back,
and then we look for move 2. So
and for it to move up. And now we're looking for it to move up again.
Right, which it does. So we had a pullback on move 1 after that green moon. Now we're having our second move, which is move 2, which is what is happening right now. Okay? So which means that for you, an entry point on that move would have been something in here, which would have put you at about 2,500 for an entry point. Okay? Now I'm going to move our yellow as our box. I'm going to move our box down and say, okay, if we entered at 2,500, that means that we have this entire box coming down for support, and we can go all the way down to this lower part of this box and still find support. So at the end of the day, we still have this support here in orange, this support here in orange, and we still have this here. So we are still in a really good zone of being in profits. Now, since we didn't get that move, we weren't watching it like that, but this is a way to use your 15-minute moons, Tally, to see the pullback, get your entry, and then see where your stop losses would be. And you can see that there's tons of support. All these orange lines are support, the yellow lines are support, the purple lines are support. There's tons of support here, right? So now, since you don't have that first move, what we need to do is we need for this to run its cycle, right? Which is going to do again, which is simply going to be where the 15-minute moon is going to come up in volume. It's eventually going to come back down. And then on that down peak, wherever that is going to be our next entry for the trade that we want. Because we are starting to build volume and momentum, and Ethereum is starting to move its way up. So now we have all these zones here that we can pick for an entry. It looks like the way it's moving up here, it's probably going to bounce off of this support zone here and then pull back. Pullback's probably going to be down to about 2,500, which is the original pullback here that Tally would have got off her moons. right? So that looks like what Ethereum would be. So now we could set up a trade and say, okay, Ethereum's going to go here. Now this is the gold part, right? Now that we know that we have entry points, right, and greedy entries, we can be greedy here. The second part is this trade worth money, right? Which is the money question. Can this trade make money? So if we entered here on this $2,500, and let's go ahead and measure our entry point and drag that up to the previous support line, which is right here, you can see that the previous support line is 0.94%, right? And really all we're doing here is we're measuring the previous purple support line, which is right here, and measuring that to our entry of 2,500, which is down here. And yeah, that's fine. And what that's going to do, and you can go back and watch the video too. This will be all on YouTube. So if we take a $2,500 entry on Ethereum, the next point of resistance is the 1% move. So that means that we can make 30% on this. Now, more than likely, eventually it's going to break through that support. It's going to find resistance. And then the next move would be to this upper level here, which is if we go back and we look at Ethereum, we can see that the previous high, its support area, which is this yellow line here, right? This is the previous support area that it broke through. That is the next resistance line. So if we travel over here, we can see that if we get into this trade, right? And the most important thing is 50-50 rule, right? Meaning that if it does break through here, right, it makes this move and it gets to its previous resistance line, right, which is 1%, would we make 30% on this move if it only got to its resistance, right? Which we would. It's a 1% move, it's 30%. We're doing 40x leverage. So we're going to hit 40% on this trade. Now, if it breaks through that resistance and it goes all the way to its previous support zone, right? Now we have a 2.86, which means that a 40x leverage, this is 40, 80, and 30. So this is 110% possible trade. Now, what do we do with a 110%? We take 50-50. How long does it take to complete your course? So the course is set up to take 6 days to understand the basics and repeat them over and over and over, which is what we're doing right now in front of you. You should be able to learn this in 4 to 6 days. And then after 4 to 6 days, you then spend the next, or say 7 days, right? After the first week of learning the basics, you then go into a 3-week course of applying the basics, okay? And then doing 10 trades and reviewing the 10 trades. So inside of the next 3 weeks, you should be able to get at least 10 to 20 trades marked down. And then once we have those trades marked down, the 10 trades, we review the 10 trades. We adjust the things that we need to adjust, or during that time you see what you're doing, and you start making adjustments yourself. And then you start building a trading system or trading steps that you understand and that you can make over and over. Because the only way that the trading course works for you is that if it builds on how you acknowledge or see what's actually happening, and you can repeat the steps, which is because it makes sense to you. And then from there, the following 4 weeks are just executing the same trades over and over and building up from a $100 trading bag to a $1,000 trading bag, and then $1,000 to $2,000, and create $600 per trade. Master doing at least 4 to 5 trades a week, 20 trades a month, and that'll put you where at that point, for us, it's all mathematics. So if you make $600 times 4, right, 2,400 times 12, That's your goal. So you have $600 a trade. You want to do at least 20 trades a month, 12,000, and that's for 12 months. That puts you at 144,000. So 50-50 rule means if you're a terrible learner and you only do half of what I teach you, that you can earn $75,000 a year. And that's pretty much it. And at that point, you're repeating the same steps, you're fixing the same mistakes, you're getting better and more greedy on your entries, you're learning how to take profits better, you're moving your stop losses better, you're finding more coins, and you're doing more and more to make yourself better. And at that point, you know, it only takes, after 2 months, another 2 months to tighten up your mistakes to make sure that you're earning that $150,000 a year. So 2 months to learn it, 2 months to to get profitable, 2 months making profits and getting better profits and being greedier on your entries. So a total of 4 months, you should be a master trader making $150,000 a year. And that's if in $100,000 if you suck and you can't listen. So this is why we do the system the way we do it, is because it's designed to help everybody be successful and solve the basic problems that every trader has. And then, you know, it's really to take the worst trader and make the worst trader profitable, right? So once we have that, then we can pretty much put everything else together. All right, so back to this trade. So now that we have our area here, the 15-minute is running high. Ethereum's actually going to make moves here, so get ready for Ethereum jump. And yeah, that's kind of it, guys. That's it. So if you are interested in taking the course, like right now we are doing live trading. Students come on like Tally Trades. She's getting ready for work right now, but during the week you'll hear her in the videos. If you go to the YouTube channel, VC Crypto Nation, you'll come across her videos day 1, day 2, day 3, day 6. And then you will also, as a student, we'll hop on Discord or hop on TikTok. We'll walk you through live trades. We'll set up live trades for you, the steps on how to find the trades. We'll execute the trades with you, and we'll continue to just kind of like build the entire system with you. Every trader is slightly different in how they think or what they see. So, but the fundamentals of everything that we do are really what we call the bare bones. It's hard, you can't mess up this system because we get rid of everything that is all the tools and everything that people use, and all we're teaching you is the fundamentals of the most important thing in the world, and that's volume is king. If there's no volume, the coin doesn't go up, right? And if there is volume, it goes up. If there's no volume, it goes down. And once you learn price action, once you learn volume, once you understand why something goes up or why it goes down, then the rest of it is just seeing the parts of where you get in on support and resistance, the real support and resistance, calculating the mathematics needed to understand if you enter at this level is your lowest level. These are the support of safety nets that you have to build in front of your lowest level, etc., etc. And then once you piece all that together, right, then we start adding tools, techniques, and other little things things that make sense to you that you can use when you're trading to build a trading system that is literally your trading system, meaning completely based off of how you see the trade, what you saw, and then what the trade is doing. Yeah, everything's on TradingView. So the indicators that we're using, guys, is on TradingView. Our indicators are on TradingView. They're invite only, but once you have an invite, then they're your indicators for the rest of your life. You don't have to pay monthly for indicators. You don't have to pay us monthly for our courses. We do very, very simple, trading course. Once you take it, you're in the community, and then you have the support of everyone else that are doing the same exact course that you're doing. So when you guys are looking for trades or talking about trades, Just Darts, what's up, man? Just Darts, how are you? So when you do that, hey,
Lorcia, thanks for the gift, man. Thank you for the gift. Laurencia Cat Jasmine. That's a very interesting name. Thank you, thank you. And when you do this, you'll be part of a community that's doing the same exact process, right? So when you do the process, she's like, I know, right? When you do the yeah. So you can do it you can do anything. You don't need a computer. You can use your iPad, but with an iPad, you want to add a mouse. The most important thing is that you have a mouse, because mouses, I don't know how you operate on TradingView. I know the guys that use iPads on TradingView. I use a mouse on TradingView because it's super easy. But if you can operate TradingView on your iPad without a mouse, then you don't need a mouse. But I always recommend a mouse just to make life a little easier. But you don't need it. You can do this on iPad. You can do it on Samsung. You can do it on tablets, PC, your phone. But I do recommend, the phone's a little bit tougher because it's smaller. So at least a tablet or some type of iPad. So that's about it, guys. This is super simple. And once you see it 100 times over, you'll be able to piece it together, right? So if you guys are interested in the course, the TikTok trading course that we're doing is on TikTok, which is what you're seeing right now. Today was just kind of like an introduction to it. But if you go to my TikTok page, right? Go to my TikTok page. On my TikTok page, you will see information in my bio that you can go to. And then on the bio, you can turn around and here's my bio. Here's the link right there. And then you can get yourself squared away. Another thing is, this is what we're using here for exchanges. So if you're going to do trading, make sure you get this exchange. This is the cheapest fees, has all the coins. Using this referral code will actually get you cash back on your trades. So you get cash back, extra coins, cheapest fee. The best. I use them all. So Blowfin, Mexi, KuCoin, Kraken, Binance, blah 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 blah. I've used them all. I've been trading on crypto for the last 7 years. This is the #1 exchange. No KYC and no VPN. So make sure you sign up for this ASAP. Move all your coins over here and start doing all your trading here. Even if you do spot trading, you get cash back. So you get everything there. So set yourself up. Make sure you get that. And then if you want to take the course, you can send me a Gmail at VC Crypto Nation minus the live, right? And if you click that link, my Gmail's at that link. Send me a Gmail, or you can just click on there. There is a section there that has the trading course on it. And then if you're in the USA, all right, let me see if I have all that here. If you're in the USA, you can send me a text message. Let's see if I have this actually here. Those are the moves, all right. I'll just put it up for you guys. So if you're in the USA, guys, you can send me a text message. Do a phone call. Get yourself set up. If you're in an email, send me an email at VC Crypto Nation. Screenshot that. You can text me. But we will have limited spots on the trading for live on TikTok for the students and everything that we're doing. Simply because when we're trading with the students, it's one-on-one. We're doing a lot of videos with them. They're about an hour, 30 to 45 minutes per TikTok. We're retracking with them. So eventually, as they start to fill up, it becomes a lot harder to manage time with them. And then, so if you're going to get into the trading thing, make sure you get at me ASAP. We'll do about 4 to 5 people a week. And then once we hit all the time slots, then we'll slow that down. Just because we don't want to I don't want to be trading. My days of trading 36 hours straight are over. I'm more about enjoying life. So I'm very greedy with my life, my entry, but my greed comes to my life. You know, I spend more time, you know, living life than anything else, right? That's kind of the benefit. So if you want to get to the point where, as a trader, making money in crypto, you can just go do whatever you want. Let me end this video here. So this will be the video you can go back and watch. But the reason why, you know, we're not, you know, the reason why you want to have freedom and make residual income, or make, you know, $75,000 to $150,000 a year trading, is so that you don't have to do anything else in your life except live life, right? So it's a very important thing. So friends, family, whatever you got to do. Like I said, you know, take the wife out, play with the wife, you know, walk the wife, and then, you know, have